Da, 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 da. Mind over there. All right. Hi, Brian.
What's up, PC?
How are you doing?
It's been a day. Got up pretty early this morning. Hopped on a call with Roger over in Norway. We had about a 3-hour meeting to prep for Summer Throwdown that's happening beginning of July. I'm doing the programming for that. And so we were just finalizing all the details, running through some things, some different ideas. And it's just been nonstop since then.
Nice. Oh, look at you repping the brand. Rashad's going to be so happy. Rashad's going to be so happy you're wearing the shirt.
Listen, my headphones are dead, so hopefully I don't need them. You guys let me know.
You sound great.
Okay.
It can't be worse than Mike Halpin last night.
Oh God, I'm so bad.
He's on a vacation with his family in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and there's no internet. So he drove into town to go to a Starbucks. And when he got there was nobody. And about 30 minutes into the show, it sounded like everybody wanted a coffee at 7 p.m. on a Sunday night.
That sucks.
Got a couple of the regulars here, Sarah, Augustus, Melanie. What's up, guys? And already compliment for Paige.
Oh, both looks and sounds great. Augustus doesn't comment about us that way, so.
This is more what we're used to getting. Halpin was awful. Okay.
Great.
Anyway, now that semifinals is done, we're going to be having several interviews with a variety of different athletes from around the world that have qualified for the CrossFit Games. And basically kicking things off is Paige Semenza tonight.
Number one.
All right. Hello. What's up, guys?
Afternoon, morning, night, wherever you guys are listening from. And she, if you guys had a chance to watch the East semifinal on the final weekend of semifinals this year, she finished 8th in the East and earned her 5th individual ticket to the CrossFit Games, 6th total CrossFit Game qualification. There have been a lot of conversations just in general about where the media attention is diverted to, where a bulk of it goes, how people decide who to talk to, when to talk to them, etc. And we just kind of know that when it comes to this stage of qualification, particularly how it's set up now, that there's a lot of eyeballs obviously drawn to winners, and then there's a lot of eyeballs drawn to the cut line. And if you're an athlete like Paige that just happens to be in a qualifying spot from first event to last event with no real highs or lows in the weekend, just consistent professional performance, that middle group of qualifiers oftentimes kind of gets overlooked on these semifinal weekends, which is definitely not a fault of their own. Understandably can be quite frustrating. And I actually misspoke the other day. Scott Schweitzer corrected me. He did catch up with you at one point during the weekend. For a brief little interview after one of the events. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I don't think that there were many media people giving you much attention that weekend. And so we wanted to make sure to have an opportunity to do that because your competitive career in this sport actually spans a lot of different eras, a lot of different experiences, and is probably unique even relative to many of the athletes that have been around for a similar amount of time.
Yeah. I started in the sport in 2016. I guess that was really towards the end of the regional era. There were a couple more years after that, but I went team in 2017. It was the last year of the team of 6. So 3 men, 3 women on a team. That was a great experience. It was wild. It's a lot more diverse when you have a team of 6 than a team of 4.
And that was Timberwolf CrossFit?
Yeah. Yep. So I was with Kelly Wild. She was a former teammate of mine at Ohio State, and Andrea Nisler back before Andrea became Andrea. But those two are always like super dominant in the sport. So it was cool to kind of be there before that evolution with them, especially with her. And then it was 2018.
Would we know any of the guys that were on that team?
Anthony Davis. So 305 snatch, I think, a couple years ago, and then now it's like what 325 or something like
Dude,
that.
he hit 342 at the Granite Games.
Yeah.
But
So,
you guys had an event finish at the CrossFit Games that year. There was second place, I think maybe two second place finishes. Your team, you actually had you guys finished in the top 10, and
Yeah,
one of the top 2 finishes was on a weightlifting event.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense that he would be on your team.
Yeah,
I think that was the year he finished second or third in the Open too.
Yeah, it was, and he was like kind of riding that high, but still committed to going team, and we were thankful for that. that year. So
it was like similar to Jamie Green from the year previous in 2016. She won the Open, went team. Anthony had his best ever Open finish, stuck it out with the team, and I remember actually that lifting event. It was the first year in the Coliseum, and Jared Baratarian, I think from Salt Lake City, had set a clean and jerk record in that workout, and they were the only team that beat you guys on the lift. But they were, most of the workouts that year, it was Mayhem and Wasatch first and second, and then everybody else. So to even have a second place, I mean, those two teams were so good that season that having 2 second place finishes was actually quite an achievement for your team.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like, you don't really put it into perspective, but like we finished 8th, that was my first year. And we were good. So that was kind of what started it all, really. And then from there, it was 2018 was our first year.
I judged you in the 2017 Central Regional because I remember my knowledge of CrossFit back then was very games and athletes was very, very minimal. And I remember after I finished judging you guys, it came off. They're like, dude, you judged Anthony Davis. And I'm like, who's Anthony Davis? They're like, oh, he's the guy that finished second in the Open. I'm like, what's he doing team? And they're like, I don't know. But that was it. There were so many stacked teams that year because it was you 417. Mayhem had the Mayhem team. I think Omaha had a team that year.
Yeah. Central Regional was hard.
It was.
It was we were nervous we weren't going to qualify. We came in 4th.
OC3, the original OC3 before this came over.
Milford had a team that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dex's team. What was Dex's team? They were what were they called?
Maximus, right?
Maximus. Yeah.
Man, these are legendary names. So funny.
Yeah.
And so this. Sorry. I was actually I was actually talking with a veteran games athlete recently about this year's semifinals, and one of the observations that we were making was that for athletes that were coming from the team competition and trying their hand at individual, there were a couple, successful stories. Chloe Gavin David, for example. However, she has qualified as an individual in the past. And then there were some that were close. Kelsey Keel got pretty close by the end of the day on the West Coast. Emily Lundberg, who had qualified as a team with Kelsey actually last year, she was 1 spot away in Europe, even though it was a pretty big points gap. And then there were some others, probably most notably Jorge Fernandez, Devin Kim, that came over individual, didn't have as good of results. Erica Folo, flirting with it for a while, ends up falling out. And basically, it's just tough. It's hard to go from the team to individual. And I was wondering if you had any perspective on how much harder or easier, or if it's similar, that was back when you were doing it compared to modern era right now.
Gosh, I mean, it's hard to say. The team of 6, Kelly and I had trained together for 4 years in college, and her and I were very similar as far as we're not the best athletes, but we will work hard and be gritty athletes. So we kind of had that culture when it came to training together. So I think I really kind of developed that through ice hockey and brought that into my CrossFit experience. But everybody is so good now. It's just, you have to continue to trust your coaches, trust your programming, and really buy into warming up and cooling down and doing everything the right way. Because if you're letting something slip, it's, somebody else isn't. And that's that one notch up that they're going to have on you. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I really don't know. I don't know how well it translates right now. I just feel like I don't know, teams. I don't know. Are you just a team athlete? Are you just an individual athlete? Like, I guess we'll see. There's a few individuals who are going back to go on team this year, and it'll be interesting to see how they do, because, you know, being a team player is a lot different than being an individual. So I see it more that way.
And for you personally, when you were making that change, was it kind of by necessity that the team option wasn't available? Obviously, your background was in team sports, so you know I was always curious what kind of spurred you to want to try the individual route.
I actually always wanted to go individual. 2017, the opportunity came up, and I wanted to take advantage of the team experience and getting to the games and getting that experience in general. But I knew in 2018 that I wanted to go back to individual. Tony Cohen's, he was the owner of the affiliate at the time. He was our head coach, or he was our team captain. He was on our team. And he offered me a chance to move back in 2018, but I told him that I wanted to go individual. So I don't know. I had this gut feeling ever since that, like, I thought I could do it.
I'm always impressed when there are affiliate owners that are the head coach at their gym that are also fit enough to be relevant members of the team that can make the CrossFit Games.
Yeah, I love him so much. His family was so great to us. You know, I don't know what it's like right now, but he brought me, Anthony, and our other teammate Roderick in like family. He gave us positions as coaches there. And I believe Roderick still lives out there.
Is it Roderick Holloway?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know where that came from. Somewhere in my memory, I remember that name.
Yeah. And I think he still lives out there. It looked like they had a team go to the West Regional this year, I think. So yeah, I mean, Tony was awesome. I don't know what it's like now with teams, but I mean, we were pretty fortunate back then.
Scott is here. Hey, what's up, Scott? And he's curious if you ever played any individual sports prior to CrossFit.
No, I don't think so. What's an individual sport? No,
like golf.
This would be tennis, swimming,
golf, tennis,
golf,
nope.
badminton.
I was ice hockey, baseball, field hockey, softball, basketball. Oh gosh. Look at that little kid.
Yeah.
Man, those are some classics.
That's a great picture. That's that smile. We love that smile.
So that girl right there, if you follow the Olympics, Natalie Spooner's number 5. She's on Team Canada, which is pretty awesome. She is
really cool.
Really, really good still.
Was it Wisconsin who pretty much dominated the Big Ten during your playing?
Yeah. So Ohio State's won 2 of the last 3 years, which is really awesome. They've really, really stepped up the program. But Wisconsin, University of Minnesota, the Midwest was always pretty hefty, pretty stacked. Carolyn Prevost played for Wisconsin, so her and I played against each other for a few years.
And so you come into 2018 season, and right off the bat, you have a successful year. You know, you go to the Atlantic Regional. You end up sneaking the last spot with a pretty good finish to the competition, 3 top 7 finishes. At that point, how well do you remember that weekend and what your level of expectation was? As really the first time in your life, I guess, taking the floor, competing for something meaningful on your own.
Yeah. I knew I had a shot. I didn't know how big of a shot I had, but I knew, like, I'm just going to go and compete. Like, I love to compete. I've grown up competing my whole life. It was right after the Open that year when I knew I qualified for regionals that I signed up with a coach through Misfit. So I've been with Gabe since 2018. I still work with him today. And he wasn't there with me that weekend. So I had my best friend, the owner of our gym here, Kalina, was in the back with me. And we were like 2 goons back there. We were just goofballs, having fun, goofing around, just enjoying it, you know? And like lo and behold, it just like that's exactly what I needed that year. A few of my finishes were like, decimal points of being a placement before or behind. So a few of those I needed, and they were all foot races to the end. So it paid off, and
Similarly to this year's program.
Yeah. From start to finish, you just have to be alert and vigilant and ready to compete.
I was actually at that regional that year in
Look at all those names in there.
in Florida.
I know.
You were there, Patrick? Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
we've
was
talked
judging.
about
You
that
guys
before.
probably remember my brother. Misfit remembers like it's, yesterday, but my brother was so pumped that weekend. He was yelling all weekend long. He's in like an American flag outfit. And when I qualified, like he was just roaring the entire time. So it was just so funny.
That
People
was a
like
fun
don't forget him.
Yeah, that was a fun regional because I remember when I had breaks.
Yeah.
The hotel was connected to the convention center. They had that pool right there between them, and I just went to the pool and just hung out between events.
That's awesome.
But yeah, look at the names. Mackenzie Flincham, Danny Spiegel, Elena Phipps.
That's
Haley
the
Adams.
first time I ever saw Danny Spiegel compete live.
Yep.
And
He
this was
team before that, right?
she may have been, but I had never. I think one year, I had a friend down. I was living in Florida actually at the time, and I had a friend who knew Danny from something local competitions or whatever, and she told me to keep an eye on her at that weekend, and I was like, okay, I don't know who this girl is, but all right. And obviously she had some highs and lows. She started with the 31st, had an event win, and everything in between. So she's still having similar performances, but certainly was impressive with the gymnastics and the weightlifting right out the bat.
Yeah.
Haley Adams was only a teenager at that time, still had a fairly good weekend. So that was just pretty. And then you had some of the kind of veterans there that, as always, are up towards. Oh, damn! Shelby Neal was in that field
too. I know.
Yeah. Yep.
Some solid names in that region.
And then even
like
how old
was she? Was 18 that year.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, what a throwback.
Mara was in that one.
Laura Gonzalez-Marin she won the opening event down in South America this year at semifinals. But it's always cool to do some stuff like this because a lot of times, a name shows up and then you're like, wow, where did this person come from? And you don't realize they've actually been putting in the work for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And you said this year, first year going individual, you started working with Gabe.
Yeah.
And you stayed with him throughout your entire career.
Yeah, I've been with Misfit ever since. I love them. Like, I mean, they're in the trenches with me, as Drew had said recently in his podcast. Like, they don't get a whole ton of recognition either, but I've been trusting the programming. I've been listening to their advice, and a lot more of our relationship has grown of like, helping me outside of the gym than inside of the gym. And, you create a relationship like that. You don't let go of that. You don't fix something that's not broken.
It's a conversation that comes up a lot. Sometimes you see athletes like yourself. Pat Vellner's a great example that they just span an entire career with the same coach, and they trust that, and they just continue. Noah Olson, Travis Mayer, and a lot of sustained success. And then you see other athletes like Brent Fikowski. He's had a similar amount of sustained success, but he's had 2 or 3 different coaches for periods of time along the way. And then you see other athletes that are kind of seeking and searching all the time for something new or different, sometimes with a lot of success. Even Matt Fraser, he went from Ben Bergeron to move down to Mayhem, got involved with the proven guys before they were proven a little bit, but kind of picking the brains of all these different people. And then you see someone like Sarah Sigmundsdottir that's had some success. She's bounced around to different coaches looking for different answers. After kind of just observing this, do you think that it's that there is a best formula based on your experience or other athletes that you know?
I think it's like I think it's similar to if you were to move to a new area. You want to find a CrossFit gym, you're going to find the one that fits for you. And some of us are fortunate to find that right away. And some of us have to figure that out and try, trial and error on different places and, figure out what you're looking for. I personally have never been someone who wants to be like within a training camp. I don't do well being in high intensity training or in a competitive atmosphere like that. I've been lucky this year to have one training partner who she also follows Misfit, McKenna. She was at our semifinal this past year as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we have had a lot of fun this past year training. Again, I think it comes down to the training culture that you want to develop, and the relationship you have with the people around you. So some people find that in having a training camp, some people don't. And I just don't know if that would be the right fit for me in the individual setting. In a team setting, absolutely. But in an individual setting, definitely not.
I thought this was a good kind of question off of your statement there. You don't fix things that are broken. Do you ever do maintenance? And I was curious specifically if at any point during your career you've thought to yourself, okay, I'm sick of being bad at this thing. I'm going to seek a specific coach for fill in the blank.
I haven't used any specialty coaches. Drew does a ton of research. I really trust what Drew puts into the training. It's not just him. There's other brains that are involved. Sherb and Hunter and Gabe. And I know that Drew is the one that is actually most likely reaching out to other people and, whether it's someone like Hinshaw or a weightlifting coach. Like, I know he's doing his research, and that's what I love about him, is he, as an athlete, he's doing that work. Like, for me, it's okay. He's going to help me figure out like how to get better at running or how to get better at so-and-so. And if it ever got to a point that I needed a specialty coach, I think we would figure that out. I do have some friends that are gymnasts as well. So as far as gymnastics, things like that, I go to them instead. Like, I don't have a lot of money to just be throwing around to different coaches and things like that. So, if friends are willing to help, I'm going to do that. But overall, I mean, Drew, Gabe, like those guys are doing their research. I know that much.
Patrick, was there something else on this page that you were drawing your attention?
No,
I don't know.
not really. I mean, just
okay. You're lingering on that section of the leaderboard for a while. I didn't know.
Yeah, I was looking for other
something
things
lined up.
Yeah, that's why.
So you make it to the games, second year in a row. This time individual. That's a good picture. That's an old one, huh?
Yeah,
so
Gigi
good.
right there in the middle.
Oh, look at that little baby.
She still come by the gym at all?
Oh yeah. So she is at Yale right now. She's in school. Just finished her second year. Gosh, I can't believe she's going to be a junior. But she has grown since that picture. And man, I just love looking back at these little pictures.
Look at
bring back so many good memories. Yeah, she's doing awesome. She's doing awesome.
So you go to the CrossFit Games 2018, and notably, in 2015 through 18, there were no cuts at the CrossFit Games for the individuals. So you get to, in your first year, your rookie season as an individual, you get to compete the entire weekend, and you have your best finish of the weekend on the final event. It was Aeneas, if anyone doesn't remember. It was some pegboards, some thrusters, and then increasing weight yoke carry. Just coming in, we'll maybe talk about that cuts thing at some point, but coming into that first CrossFit Games individual, where was your mind at? What were your coaches talking to you about? What were you thinking prior to anything else?
I was terrified. I was terrified. So obviously if you saw on the picture, China Cho, Kenzie Riley, like those guys are experienced at that point, seasoned veterans, but it's like, you can get the advice from them, but still you have to experience it. And that was the year where we did the crit race, the powerlifting total, the ring muscle ups, and then the marathon row on day one. So as a rookie, that was just like we woke up the next morning and my friend was like, I had to make sure you were still breathing, that you're still alive. So yeah, that year was wild. I was not prepared like I would be now. I can say that much. Like the eating, the hydrating, the sleeping, the warm-ups, the cool downs. Like you just learn so much year after year. That it's like you look back on that year and I'm like, if I knew these things then, yeah, I probably could have done, pretty well.
Do you think that day that you just described, those 4 workouts culminating in Marathon Row, still stands up as, for you personally, the hardest day of competition at a CrossFit Games you've done?
Yes, by far. Anytime anyone asks me, I say it's the Marathon Row day. I had like a Whoop back then. I don't wear it anymore, but my Whoop strain was at like a 20.7, and it's like the highest it can go is a 21 or something like that. So it was wild. That day was just insane.
At least they had the foresight to give you guys Thursday off.
The day off. I know, right? Yeah.
And then and then Patrick had the picture up there. You come back on Friday morning, I think it was, with the Battleground event.
Yes.
Which I think is one of the coolest events from that era of the games.
That was they had work requirements this year that you had to complete the work requirement or you would be cut. You remember that?
So those are some details that,
Yeah.
at the CrossFit Games, there's details like that they don't actually release to the public. They don't
Yeah,
actually,
so
they're
that
just in
is-
the athlete briefings or amongst
Yeah.
the coaches, they might say them, but they don't really advertise them.
Yeah, so that was we had the obstacle course. That was the year that I think like Vellner fell off the rope, right? Like trying to jump down real fast. Yeah. And you had to complete the obstacle course to make it, like, to move on. What was the other one? I think it was the obstacle course one. I remember Jen Smith had gotten cut because she didn't complete a certain part of the obstacle course in the handstand walk. So yeah, there were some work requirements.
In general, you've qualified for 5 CrossFit Games. You've been to some with no cuts, some with cuts.
Yeah.
Various different kinds of cuts. Do you have a preference as an athlete, or is it kind of like, hey, I know if I'm playing this sport that they make the rules and I just got to figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can do, right? Like my 4 years in college, we went through coaching changes almost every single year. So it was constantly learning a new system, constantly learning how a new coach works, a new assistant coach, whatever it may be. So I guess in that sense too, I was pretty experienced with just having to adjust and having to figure it out. And I think that's, what makes the best of the best. That's what makes you, the experienced athlete that you are, is you have to just kind of adjust on the fly when it's necessary. So would I love to not have cuts? Yes. I think it says something to be able to complete the whole weekend and get a feel for it. So like I think it was 2022, the final day with like the heavy yoke, the deadlift, heavy squat clean, that workout, like that just destroys you. Like if you're not prepared for that, like you're not going to do well in the next event anyway. So, but I think there's something to it that, like, show how prepared you are. Like, we're here to compete. Let us show that off. So
when you see these, like Patrick's pulling up these pictures from 2018, are there any emotions come out when you look back at these?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I wish I wasn't so stressed at the time, because I look back now and I'm like, all of this stuff is so much fun. I enjoy doing it so much. I wish I didn't have so much pressure on it to do well. Like, it's more of be present, like enjoy the moment, and you kind of learn that as you go. So, but yeah, man, I mean, these bring up such great memories competing with Kenzie and Meredith on a team at Granite Games. Like, we just have so much fun. It's a family affair for us. Like, our Vertex community, we're very close. I love the Sabatinis. I love spending time with them. So, a lot of great memories with this crew.
I actually misspoke about your first CrossFit Games. Do you know the mistake that I made?
No.
You did have one finish that was better than Aeneas, and it was, I think,
The total?
it was the clean and jerk speed ladder. You were
Oh, okay.
14th on that, 15th on the Aeneas, 16th on the total.
Okay.
I think from the beginning, it was clear that weightlifting, if you're going to compartmentalize the three kind of domains of CrossFit, was a strength of yours. And, by that time in the history of CrossFit, speed ladders in competition were kind of expected. We'd already seen many iterations of that. Knowing that you're good at weightlifting in general and seeing a workout like that come up that year, did that do anything for you in terms of making you more terrified, more nervous? Oh, now I have to do well on this? Or was it like, here we go, I've been waiting for CrossFit Total clean and jerk speed ladder?
Yeah, I think, you're so intimidated. You're out there with the best of the best, and you watch them on TV the years prior, and it's like, oh shit, like, oh, I'm out here, like, I don't want to mess it up either, but it's just constantly reminding yourself to have fun with it, because it's why you started it, and that's what brings out the best in you, at least for me. So yeah, back then I think back to the feelings and the emotions, and I'm like, if I can just tweak those a little bit, I definitely would. It's changed. It's definitely, I've matured a lot with that.
And this, like, what a great year to make it to the rookie games. This was a really special year. A lot of people think that it was kind of the best year, the pinnacle of the sport. And you also had this workout that year called Chaos, that there's never been a workout before or since that was like that. From the athlete perspective, or the rookie athlete perspective, do you remember that workout?
I remember going out so hard on the skier, because I never really did the skier before that year. So yes, I remember I paid for it.
What about before you got on the field of play, like being in the back, kind of isolated with the athletes? What did you know? What did you not know? What were the girls talking about?
I was pretty secluded at that point. I didn't really talk to anybody. But it's like, you don't know how to warm up for it. Warm up your squat, warm up. I honestly don't even remember, to be honest. I couldn't even tell you what I did to warm up.
Just go out on the field and wait for your judge to tell you to do the next something.
Yep, basically. And it was tough too, right? Like, we had overhead squat, like single arm overhead squats, pistols. Like, there were things where, like, you needed to, like, be ready, like, and mobilize, and no, not at all. Was not ready.
All right, we're gonna take a quick pause and as we walk through your career here for a few questions that some people have sent in. Start with Sarah here. What do you see as your weakness? And maybe there's an evolution to this over your career.
Definitely getting upside down.
Ice cream. Ice cream is my weakness.
Definitely ice cream. I'd say getting upside down, handstand walking, strict pressing, and notoriously have been pretty bad with bar pull gymnastics, but those have definitely come a long way. So.
When you say that, would you mean like pull-ups and chest to bar pull-ups, or more like toes to bar muscle up?
More of like toes to bar and chest to bar pull-ups, grippy stuff.
And when you with your coaching team, clearly you guys have been together for a long time. When you see something like that, do you guys have a process that's dialed in for how to go about talking about it and then addressing it? And how good do you feel about that process, having been doing this for as long as you have?
Yeah, I'd say Drew probably, he programs based off a few people when it comes to the programming. I can't give away his secrets. He has more of his secrets, but I definitely know he uses me to figure out, as far as, just the programming as a whole. I know I'm part of that process. So I can look at a training phase and be like, I can pick and choose, like I can pick out like what I know is specifically for me. So I've gotten pretty good at that.
As just kind of an aside, I guess, there's been there have been a lot of athletes that have been doing this for a long time that are still having success at the higher levels. And when we talk to them, we hear a lot of them say, for most of the year, I'm just doing in 60 to 90 minutes. I'm just doing the class workouts and maybe a little extra lifting. And it, for me, it feels like, and I actually think, I'm trying to remember, I think it might have been actually Taylor Self on the Get With The Programming this week was kind of talking about this in the context of some of these veteran athletes, saying that they've built such a base of doing these movements that they don't need to do what he calls like garbage reps. So if they're doing a muscle up day, like they don't need to do this massive volume of muscle ups anymore. They have that movement memory built in and that prerequisite strength over such a long period of time to do it. They can get away with doing, less volume and really prioritizing the intensity. Have you noticed that at all? Have you gotten to that point of your career yet?
Yeah, definitely. We do within Misfit, we call them smooth sets. We call them Misfit sets. So it's, 4 sets of smooth reps, making sure the technique is there, not grinding through reps on those sets. And then we'll follow up with like a max set of something just to, kind of check in with those movements and see where we're at. We do that a lot. And those are some of my lower intensity. You're just focusing on the skill. You're taking it out of a Metcon. We do a lot of that. And I'd say even this year, I kind of forced myself to have an off season. So that was different. Just some things earlier in the year that, was kind of where I was on the line of figuring out if I was competing this year or not. So, at the time I was like, oh my God, I think I'm falling behind. I'm losing track. But taking that time off, I think really was a blessing in disguise.
And then, is that the first time that you've done that sort of extended an off season?
Yeah.
And on the back of that, coming back into, making the decision to compete and coming back into that, was it a smooth transition? Did you get your fitness back relatively quickly, or were you even nervous in the first kind of month or so?
I definitely felt like my strength had lacked a little bit. And it was just more of, I had to give myself, I've said it in a post recently, have a lot of grace for myself going back into training. I wasn't worried about times that I was getting on workouts. I wasn't forcing myself to hit certain paces on conditioning pieces. I was simply just trying to get back into enjoying it. And it was also back when I started training with McKenna as well. So that was a huge benefit for me, was more of the getting back into training with her. And then that just naturally picked up the intensity for me. So it was definitely keeping the pressure very, very low at the start.
Was this prior to Rogue or after Rogue?
This was after Rogue.
Okay.
So just a few things in my personal life had taken a different direction. So through December, a little bit into January, I still stayed working out because I was doing Wadapalooza with McKenna and Jenna Michelotti, another misfit of ours. So that was kind of some motivation, because I love to help the younger athletes out. Obviously those two have a special place in my heart, same as Gigi did. So that was a big motivation for me.
And me and Brian we actually got to know another athlete. I don't know if she comes by the gym anymore, but she had a young athlete that had a lot of things to say about Ali Rothenberger.
Yeah. You guys had an article on her. So Caroline Sabatini, Gigi's younger sister, had made it to the games as well in 22. And Ali was one of her really good friends. Yeah.
So, but they all said the same things, that when it comes to younger athletes, like, you're a great mentor to them. And I remember at Wadapalooza, you were more excited about that team because you're like, hey, you're just really excited to be there.
And McKenna has been, getting to train with her here at home every single day, getting to see her kind of grow into the athlete that she is. It just I want to see her excel, and I want to see how far she could take it. So if I can be a positive space in that journey for her, I'm I want to take full advantage of that.
Nice comment here from CJ. A lot of athletes are great at CrossFit, but maybe not in actual life. But Semenza seems like someone you'd call to help move your apartments, and that's a compliment.
Listen, my brother has moved his stuff so many times, and he just calls me up instead of calling his friends, like his guy friends who are much bigger than me, and he calls me instead. Also because he doesn't have to pay me. And yeah, I definitely am pretty good at moving stuff. So you let me know, I'll come help.
Besides, more generally speaking there, do you feel like that's been something you've had to learn over time, is how to balance the CrossFit with everything else that you do in your life? Or do you feel like maybe because you had such a level of success with sports all the way through college that you'd already kind of built in just an innate ability to have that balance?
No, it's definitely been a learning process every single year. I learn something new every single year. Whether it's through coaching at the gym and learning to balance, my emotions from my own training to coming in and being a coach to give somebody the best hour of their day, well into my own like personal relationships or relationship with significant others and things like that. I have had to learn to balance a lot, and I've made mistakes. And I think this year I've gotten a lot more self-aware with that, and making sure that I bring the right parts of me to the right relationships, like when that needs to happen, whether it's coaching in the gym, okay, I have to shut the athlete off in me, whether it's balancing spending time with, a significant other or with family, like you have to kind of, it's a fine balance, because the sport asks so much of you during the training season. But it's also when you can take advantage of the time off. So, no, that is definitely a never ending balance of figuring it out. And, every year is different. If a work schedule changes and then you have to readjust things and, but if you're on the same page with the people around you, you make it work.
Let's do one more question here before we get back to your career a little bit. CJ again, Semenza is an animal, but apparently a sneaky one. Does she think she's sneaky or just not covered often enough?
No, I don't think I'm sneaky. It's funny because I feel like this year, anytime I talked to somebody at home who was watching semifinals, they had said I got a lot of camera time, which is cool. I think that's awesome. I don't see that. I don't know that, but everybody's like, she doesn't get enough attention. I don't get enough media. And I have definitely felt that way quite a bit. But also at the same time, it doesn't change what I do. Like, it doesn't impact my training. It doesn't impact the way I'm going to go perform. So no, I don't think I'm sneaky. I just go out there and I do the work that I know how to do. So.
All right. Well, we are seeing the questions you guys are answering. We'll bookmark those and we'll get to them as it kind of fits in with the conversation. So, if you have any other questions for Paige, drop them in there. We'll weave them in as it makes sense. But we'll go back. So you finish up as a rookie in 2000. We know which one's not. We know which one's not to read. We finish up as a rookie year 2018, and the whole system changes. So now, from right off the gate, did you think, okay, I'm going to adapt to this system, or was there ever a thought of like, I really like the old system, maybe I don't even want to participate in this?
It was annoying. It was more of, okay, how do we figure this out? Where do I go? How do I compete? Where do I compete? So that was my first year. I got invited to do Wodapalooza, and I did that, which Wodapalooza is kind of a great one because a lot of the athletes who made it in the top 20, or however many they took that year, the backfill went up so high. So I wasn't far off from that, but again, I didn't qualify through Wodapalooza. I decided to do the French Throwdown as a team with Caroline and Austin Spencer and Mitch Barnard at the time. But prior to that, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to qualify. I don't know if I'm going to go this year. And then Kenzie Riley was like, why don't you just ask the Brazil championship if they'll let you come and compete? She's like, I have a hotel room. You can just stay with me. And then you just have to figure out your flight. And I was like, I don't know. I guess I can. The worst they say is no. And they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you. I was like, awesome. Okay, Mom, how do I book a flight to Brazil? So I ended up doing that. And obviously a great experience. Very cool to be in another country and qualify and have Kenzie there as, you know, a bit of a mentor and a friend. So that was pretty awesome.
She was the only person who beat you at that competition.
Yeah.
You guys went 1 and 2. She already had an invite, and third in that competition was your former rival from college hockey, Carolyn Friebo.
Yep. Which she had already qualified, right? She qualified through the Open.
I think she had, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm still sure it was nice to beat her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. I mean, forever competitive, but she's a good friend now. She's awesome. I
was looking here because I was looking through all your competition that season. You competed 3. I have your record of you competing at 3 different sanctionals. You also did the MAC.
Yep, I had the MAC. Forgot about that.
And Katie Trombetta, blast from the past name there. She actually she was 1 spot ahead of you at Wadapalooza, but 1 spot out of the qualifying spot, 2 spots ahead of you at the MAC, but 2 spots out of the qualifying spot because Meg Reardon won the competition and took the spot.
Yeah.
And then you went to Brazil and you got your qualification there. After deciding to do that trip and go down to Brazil, how much of a relief was it to leave with the qualification?
Oh my God. It was awesome. I mean, I didn't know what to expect that year at the games, knowing we're going to have all these national champions and all that. But it was cool to say that I've qualified for the games back to back. That was pretty neat.
Besides the competition, do you have any cool memories from that trip to Brazil?
I mean, a Brazilian steakhouse that you see in the United States is a legit steakhouse down in Brazil, which is pretty awesome. So just the food. We didn't really get to experience the city, but I mean, driving from the hotel to the venue, like, man, is it a busy, busy city, constant traffic and chaos. I'll say that, but it was cool.
Do you remember if any of the South American athletes were seemingly bitter at all that some of you guys had come down to compete in their competition?
I'm sure they were, but they didn't really let us know that. But there were quite a few of us. There was me, Caroline Spencer was there, Scuds was there. So there was a good amount of us. Angela DeSico was there that year.
On the men's side.
Yeah, Austin Spencer.
Was Sean there?
There was
the brothers.
It was Will Morad, Saxon and Spencer, Sean Sweeney, Alex Caron, Zach Watts, Austin Spencer, John Wood, Kyle Kant, Easy Muhammad, Luke Parker, Angela DeChico. The first Latin American or South American athlete was 13th overall, Augustine Raquel.
Wow. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So, yeah, we're all over the place.
I remember Sean Sweeney was walking around with 8x10s and handing them out to South Americans, signed 8x10s.
That's amazing.
Wait, was that the competition that had a 12-round elimination event at the final?
Yes, that was the first year that they had done an elimination event.
The Echo Bike.
And they kept the assault bike calories the same for men and women. So, like, we're sitting on that thing for God knows how long, and the guys are just ripping on it. Yeah, it was pretty fun, though.
It was fun to do 12 elimination rounds back to back like that. Gosh, sounds terrible.
It wasn't that long, but
Paige does well in elimination events, you know.
Yeah, I do.
That's a lot of rounds, though. You could have dropped that 2 every time. I think it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Paige, the reason why I'm bringing up this picture is this is actually I judged you a couple times prior, but we never met. But this was at MAC. This is actually the first time me and you actually met. And I was there as a photographer, and that's actually my photo that in here. So it's just like kind of fun just going through there. It's like, you know, Gosh,
This was the MAC
2019.
in 29. I was there also, actually. It was the
Yeah.
first time I worked at a competition that Wilson Pack organized.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've been to quite a few of his events. He actually came up to me at Syndicate to introduce himself. And I knew who he was, but I qualified at Syndicate twice and I've been to the MAC. So I think he runs a great event. We had a great time at Syndicate both times that we were there. He really, really he cares about the athletes. He cares about the coaches, cares about the family. So I thought he did a great job, him and his team.
This year especially. He even cares about the media.
Yeah, right.
Did a great job with the media this year.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So you qualify for the games after a stressful sanctional year. You go there in 2019. There's 130 women or so lining up to do a pretty hard workout. I think it's one of the best, but also one of the most difficult workouts that's ever been programmed at the CrossFit Games. First cut. Do you remember it that way? Do you still think it was a good workout? Do you remember it being a hard workout? You did pretty well on it.
It was brutal. I mean, that rope seemed so high. What were we, 20 feet or 17 feet, whatever it was, but it was a brutal workout. Like, you got to the top on some reps and you're like, I don't know if like I kip swing this and I'm just going to fall off the rope or if I'm going to hang on. It was it hit. It definitely hit as a first workout.
It was actually, I think Sevon and the guys did a podcast with Dave at Syndicate Crown this past weekend or 2 weekends ago. And Dave talked about that workout and that Greg Glassman gave him the green flag to make a hard workout, like a welcome to the CrossFit Games for all these international contingencies. And that his original version of it had 225 and 155 for the squat snatches.
Jesus. And what did it was 125, right?
It ended up being 185, 125, I think.
It was plenty.
It was plenty. And I think there would have been less reps at that weight, is what he said. But that was a pretty intense workout. It actually ended up being your best workout of the 4 that you got to do that year.
Yeah.
But basically you were just consistent. As the field got smaller and smaller and better, you had all your finishes were within 12 spots of each other. 24th to 36 was the range. And this is your third year consecutively being at the game, second year as individual. Overall thoughts about that year from the athlete side?
I mean, I cried when I got cut. I was pissed. But again, just another year of having a little bit more experience, feeling a little bit more confident being there, feeling like I belonged, and then, getting cut, and there's just a sour taste in my mouth. So, but I got to have some drinks with some friends and cheer on Gigi as she podiumed that year. So, I mean, there's still some positive to it, I guess.
That was my question. Did you attend the cut parties that were going on Saturday night?
No, I was definitely watching Gigi. I mean, that was her last year there, and I mean, watching her podium was awesome. So, yeah.
Well, the following year, you had what I would say is your quietest year of your career, 2020, or leading into what ended up being the 2020 CrossFit Games. I don't know what was going on with your life at that time. Maybe you can fill us in, but you basically did one sanctional event that year, and it was Wodapalooza.
Yeah, so I went and did a half marathon in Disney that January. That was when I think Wodapalooza was moved to February, right? So early in the year, we had planned to go. I did the half marathon. I spent that Sunday walking around Disney, walking around Epcot, and Monday we were flying home, and my friend was like, "You definitely have the flu." Because I just was like, I don't feel good. And we're flying home. And she's like, you definitely have the flu. And I either had the flu or I had COVID right before COVID became COVID. And I was just rocked from that. So I was sick for 3 weeks. I had a week where I finally felt better. And then I got strep throat for a week. And then a week later, I was going to Wodapalooza. So I basically went to Wadapalooza 7 pounds lighter than I wanted to be, and just went and had fun. And then the whole COVID thing kind of hit, and it was, it was what it was. Our gym was closed. I still went working out by myself. I still followed Misfits programming. I think Rich Froning was planning on doing a team competition at his gym at Mayhem. So we were going to put a team together and qualify for that. Yeah. And then that ended up getting canceled too. So yeah, that year was just kind of a wash. But I stayed training. I stayed,
before the entire season got canceled, there was, I think, 16 sanctionals plus Rogue that got canceled. So more than half of the available ones. Do you remember if there were other competitions that you were planning on trying to qualify through?
Yeah, I was planning on going to the MAC again. I had a few others in mind. I wanted to try and do another international one. I just wasn't sure which one. I didn't really have a whole layout with a plan yet, though.
Gosh, I'm just looking at the names of these competitions that was gonna be so crazy.
The Mexico one was gonna be sweet. That was basically gonna be like a last chance qualifier, and it was at a resort in Cancun.
Asbury Games was one. That was one I was gonna do because that's close. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but it is what it is.
So that year, you missed out on the CrossFit Games for the first time in 4 years, including the team year. Were you still following closely along during the online portion, during the live portion of the games, watching, or when you're not a part of it, do you kind of zone out a little bit?
I didn't really watch much of the online portion, but I did watch the games at the ranch. I just thought that was, cool he destroyed them. We were just looking back. We were doing I had a meeting with Gabe and Drew had all the workouts listed from every year. And we were just looking through and man, did Dave just destroyed them at the ranch. Those workouts look meaty.
Yeah. Well, you always think about hey, I got 5 people here, and out of everybody in the world, these are the best 5. This is even different than programming for 20 or 40. This is 5. Right. So they're the best of the best, and if they're really the best, they can handle the test, whatever it is. I think he kind of embraced that mentality because there were some super, super fun workouts that year for sure. But yeah, the totality of them, and it's you almost didn't even feel like you needed a final, and then it was one of the most brutal workouts in the history of the games.
Right. Just nuts. So, so that was that. I thought the online portion, I did follow along a little bit, but I couldn't say I know too many specific results, but different. Some of those workouts are pretty intense. So it's different than having to program for an affiliate of 25%, So you got the drag rope with the GHD, that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool.
That was the Awful Annie.
Yeah.
Whatever the latest version of Nancy was, Friendly Fran. Did your coaches program any of those workouts for you after they came out? So you've never done Friendly Fran?
No.
Oh, I think you need to try it.
Wait a second. Friendly, that was the 85-pound thruster, right?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, that was in the online in 2021. So yes, I did do that. Not my greatest workout.
For the semifinals, for the Atlas Games, or for the last chance qualifier?
It was one or the other, but I did both. So I had to do both. I think it was for the semifinal. Yeah, because Caroline came to visit. It was for the semifinal. So it was Atlas Games.
Well, that year, Atlas Games, you end up taking 8th. You get the last chance qualifier spot. It was actually a super stacked field that I don't think necessarily people got the credit for or acknowledge how difficult of a field that was. Obviously, it was online, so it's a lot harder to follow the storylines. But just to put some reference for people who don't know, the top 10 that year was Caroline Prevost, Mackenzie Riley, Bailey Rail, all within 1 point of each other, by the way. Emily Rolfe, She was only 13 points away from the win. Sydney McAlishan, 8 points behind that. She makes it as a rookie. Annika Greer, 1 spot out of qualifying. Alexis Johnson, 1 point behind her. Paige in 8th. And Emma Lawson, 1 spot behind that. And then Mackenzie Flincham, China Cho, Freya Moosbrugger, top 12. That is a stacked field of women for a semifinal. Do you remember knowing going into that competition how hard it was going to be to qualify?
No, I was actually pretty confident that year. So I don't typically do well with online competitions, but as I've been progressing in the sport, so have my online competitions. And I was actually feeling pretty confident that year. So that year they actually let us choose. They're like, if you had to list your top 4 semifinals or sanctionals to go to, which one would they be? So I put online as my first one. So I got that. And I was really excited. I got to do it in front of, the crowd, friends and family at home. And but at the end of the day, I needed to be in a live competition. I think I thrive much better there in that setting. I believe we had the snatch workout. If I had hit one more snatch in that workout, I would have qualified. That was how close it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy tight. From Freya, who got 12th, to Caroline, who got first, was only 66 total points, 12 spots. And I don't think that before that competition that everyone would have known that at 21 years old, Sydney McAlishan, 18 years old, Annika Greer, 16 years old, Emma Lawson, 19-year-old Freya Moosbrugger, that these were actually serious competitors that could potentially cause some problems for some of the more veteran athletes.
Right. So, and even, that being my third year trying to qualify, I didn't really feel like I earned the right to say veteran yet. I still felt like I had a lot to
I like that.
Showcase. I don't know. I just, my rookie year felt so much like a rookie year that and then the second year I didn't get to complete the entire games weekend. So it was I still feel like I owe it to myself to get a solid performance in.
So that year, come up short on the online last chance qualifier. Now it does exist. You go and do it. You had kind of impressions about the last chance qualifier in general. Do you like that exists as an opportunity at that point in your career, a second chance?
I think it's neat, but I don't think it's necessary. It was just more stress, and the workouts were a little bit more specialized, a 3-rep max heavy deadlift, release your hands on every single rep. If that's one of the 4 workouts, if you're not good at that, you're probably not going to qualify. So.
Right. That was exactly the situation for Taylor Self, actually. He did amazing on the other 3 workouts, was second or third to last on that one and comes up 2 spots short.
Right.
I wanted to actually, Karen Frey was quite similar. She had a 3rd and 8th and 11th, took an 18th on that, and it basically kept her out. I mean, look, Emma Tall and Christy O'Connell at the time, obviously not
burpees.
That's kind of the counterpoint is, the athletes that did qualify through those things are actually legitimate and good athletes.
100%. Yeah, they're well-rounded, and that's what you needed at the time. That's what you need. You need to be well-rounded.
It is cool also looking back at some of those, Alexis Raptis was in there, of course, Annika, as we talked about, some of these young athletes that hadn't quite make it yet. Victoria Campos was there that year. Now she's made the games. Pisa Gaffi, Manon Angoniz. Anyway, so 2021, come up short of the CrossFit Games. 2 years in a row not being able to participate in it. Does that put a damper on anything for you, or are you still motivated?
No, that was actually the end of August. Ben and I had gone to watch the CrossFit Games. So I was a spectator at the 2021 CrossFit Games, and we went home, and I was like, I'm going all in. I'm reaching out to Meredith. I want to get my nutrition in check. I want to do this all the right way. And we did. I completely bought into the training. I bought into my nutrition, working on my recovery, making sure my warm-ups are better, all the things. So every little detail was more and more in place. And then, roll around to 2022, and I didn't have a doubt that I would qualify.
Do you remember, was there something in particular that you saw at the 2021 games? Was there a workout, an athlete, a moment, or just the totality of it that inspired you that way?
Just the totality of it. I was like, I wanted to be out there. I know I should be out there. I want to be out there. I want to earn it. I want to get back to doing that. So, yeah, it sucked watching. It's not fun.
It's funny.
Fun. It'll be fun when I'm like, okay, I am done competing, but knowing that I can be out there, it's not fun.
I mean, I even remember 2 years ago, last year, there's always a couple athletes that don't make it. And I'm not even talking about athletes on the demo team, but that still come because they're either got a coach, they have a training partner, they have a friend that's competing, or they just want to come and watch it. And I see them and I don't even have to ask them. You just look in their face and you just know they're like, I'm not done. I want to get back out there.
Yeah, for sure. And that's not, that's not to, like, it's amazing to still go and watch and spectate and see what is possible in the sport. And so, I mean, it's still a nod to the athletes that are there. It's just, you put yourself in those shoes of not being there, you feel it.
So now it's like we're going from 2021 to 2022, and you've obviously already had a lot of experience and success, various levels of success in the sport, and you make this commitment to your diet, to your recovery. Was that a new thing for you at that time in your career?
Sort of. Yeah, I wouldn't say the diet so much, but I still felt like I had a lot to learn. And Meredith is a friend of mine prior to being a nutrition coach for me. So I felt comfortable, being able to talk with her. We got a lot more into personal details with, menstrual cycle, all these things that, come into play for a female athlete, and more into journaling and just, again, learning to be more self-aware, things like that, checking in with myself. And then being able to put the nutrition together with the training stuff. So, there was a lot that it could be complicated, but again, when you have coaches that know what they're doing, it's much less complicated. You tell me what to do and I'll do it, kind of thing. So, yeah, I've learned a ton since 2022 working with Meredith. Like, it's not I don't have an issue with tracking macros or with eating enough food, but it's more of like when to do it. Certain endurance events, we talk about sodium loading and all these different sorts of things. So anything to have an advantage in training or in competing or, developing a better sleep routine, whatever it is, like all those things matter.
And the feeling that you had going into that season, I think, was basically echoed in your performances throughout the season. You have a top 30 open finish, top 10 in North America in the quarterfinals. You go to the Syndicate Crown, you take third place there, but behind Haley Adams and Alexis Raptis, but you had your worst finish was better than both of theirs. So you didn't have any bad finishes there. Everything was 8th place or better, 2nd place on the final. Are you at this point, obviously a successful run up to that 2022 games, do you feel like a veteran yet going to that 2022 games, or are you kind of like, this is a renewed chance at a rookie year almost?
No, I definitely felt like I belonged there, that I had been there a couple times already. It wasn't the rookie year was a rookie year, like that I know. This was okay, I'm prepared to show like what I'm capable of. I know that I can have a much more solid performance. I'm ready to make it through the entire weekend. And not just make it through the weekend, but compete through the weekend. That's, some are there to just kind of show up, your first year there. It's like, yeah, I'm just here. I'm here to survive. But that year I was there to compete.
Well,
I will say that was the year I picked her to podium at Syndicate.
PC.
I did. Remember, that's when we're at Morning Chalk Up and we had that, me, you, and Tommy were like picking, qualifiers. And I think I probably picked her 5th. Yeah, I think he did. I think like 5th or something. I think
Probably.
Tommy had her like at like 8 or something. I had her at 3rd. But the reason why is like the reason
Come on,
why
Tommy's
is
not
like
even here to defend himself.
I know. So that's even better. I think the reason why is because I think I ran into you at Wadapalooza that year, and you kind of mentioned that stuff that you've taken that kind of left a sour taste in your mouth being at the games, not being out there, and I could kind of relate to that. I saw something there, and then you said that you're going to take this commitment to your recovery, to your eating and nutrition. And I was like, when I hear an athlete say that, it makes me happy, and I expect big things out of them that year. And and you did it. I mean, it was that was crazy. Me and Brian weren't able to be at that one because were we in Amsterdam?
Yep.
Yeah, we're at Lowlands. Yeah, we're at
you guys
Lowlands.
gotta be all over.
Yeah, we're watching that though because it was like on the men's side, it was a crazy race, and and obviously watching the women's race on that because I think was Ariel at that one and didn't qualify.
Yeah. Yep.
She
She
missed
made it
by
to the
one
last chance
spot.
You missed.
qualifier, smashed
Yep.
it.
Yeah, that's
Which
right.
is nuts. I mean, nuts.
Yeah.
That was it was an impressive field. The top 6-7 women were pretty tight on the leaderboard.
Yeah.
Wasn't a big spread again, but again, you were really the only one amongst them that didn't have a blemish, didn't have a blip. You were steady across the board, always in a qualifying position from first to last event, just like this year. And go to the games. Back at the games, well, we had a question here. This is a famous event from this year. What did you think about the Capitol workout?
Very cool. I wish I was a little more present through the entire thing, but by the time you got to the Capitol, like you're just pretty, like the pig flips in the beginning just wrecked me. I don't practice on a pig. I don't have one. But man, that thing kicked my ass to start that entire workout. And then it's like, I feel like I'm playing catch up the rest of the way. And it's like, we have this 3.5 mile run to collect yourself, but you're in the heat and the humidity and, very cool workout. I wish I could do it again. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's like that. This workout's taking 35 to 45 minutes, regardless of how good you are as an athlete. Somewhere in this range, and the first three minutes are with this thing, and you think, oh, it's like 10% of the workout. No,
crushed me. Crushed me.
And this was again, different kind of a cut structure. They did end up making cuts down to the last 10. So you made it through, all the rounds of cuts. You got to finish out the weekend there. You had a couple top 10 finish, several really good finishes this weekend. You were 11th on shuttle overhead B or part B with the lifting. Speed skill medley, 11th.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Up and over 9th. Hat trick 8th. And sandbag ladder 10th. So you had 5 event finishes within this 8th to 11th range. Do you remember any one of those particular workouts that you were especially proud of that year?
Probably I thought the hat trick one was pretty cool. And it was just kind of a nod to being an ice hockey player. So I like the sprint format of it. The 11-foot target was a nice little kind of nuance to it. But I do love a good dumbbell squat snatch. Like you make it heavy and I like it even more. So that was just a fun event. I like when you have to kind of display your athleticism. I mean, you guys know that from Rogue. So I like when we have to do that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I guess up and over was one of those as well. It had 30-inch box jumps and, whatever you think about rebounding box jumps, whatever, but like it was a 30-inch box and I was rebounding box jumps because I wanted to keep my heart rate down. So, again, just athleticism.
And that workout,
it's almost like
that workout kind of gets lost a little bit on that day because it was after the Capitol, which was such an exciting workout. Actually, there's several athletes that didn't recover very well from the Capitol and had kind of their worst performance on that workout. Do you remember having a residual effect from the Capitol on that one, or did you just kind of lean into some strengths?
Yeah, I definitely some strengths in that workout. So I was prepared for that. I was looking forward to it. I do like a good ring muscle up workout.
PC?
Yeah, you mentioned like you seem to like workout where you can show your athleticism. Is that kind of just a throwback to like when you're during the off season when you're training, when you're at Ohio State, some of the testing you do, like the preseason testing you would do. Like I don't know, I'm pretty sure you guys had testing when I played football. We had to run like 10 100 10 lengths of the field under like a certain amount of time, and then
Yeah.
is that what it kind of is your mind kind of go back to some of that stuff? Because it seems like a lot of these workouts you do, it's just like that you do really well when kind of remind me of like strength and conditioning type of testing workout that you would have from back in
Yeah,
the day.
for sure. So I stayed most summers in college, and I took a class or two, but
Yeah.
we would actually do our conditioning. We did off ice conditioning in the summertime because obviously we weren't getting on the ice very, very frequently. But we got to join other sports. So we were maybe with track and field or lacrosse or whatever other sports were there. And so we would have 6 a.m. conditioning with those guys. And, you're doing a ton of agility stuff. You're in the sand pits. It does bring me back to those days. And it was cool because, all of these athletes at Ohio State, they're all in a Division I sport. They're all training like they want to be there. They're not just there to have, to just be there. Like they wanted to compete, they wanted to train. And so it was cool to be around so many like-minded athletes. And then, yeah, the testing for ice hockey was a little bit different, but we did some off ice stuff, and you're there to work hard. And that's, yeah, for sure. So it does definitely take me back.
When you were another question, while I'm thinking of it, is when you were in Columbus during the summers or even there, was the Arnold going on, and were you cognizant of about that and like rogue
Yeah.
headquarters? Did you know about all that stuff, like, or were you just more concentrated? Okay, you did. Okay.
I did. So I didn't do CrossFit back then, and I wish I did, but I didn't do CrossFit in college. But I did know about the Rogue or about the Arnold. So I went to the Arnold 2 or 3 different years. But a friend of mine always competed in the powerlifting competition. So it was the Arnold's awesome. Like if you're into fitness and you want to experience that, I would say try to go to that.
Got a hockey question for you here.
I like Connor McDavid right now, obviously. He's really good, but it is cool to see that. I don't really care for either team.
Who is your team?
Rangers lost just because my friend loves the Rangers, but I'm a Capitals fan.
Nice.
I'm an Ovechkin fan. I'll say that much.
How many more years does he have?
I don't know, but man, it's crazy to think that like I was 16 when he started. Like that's insane. He's been in the sport so long.
Well, I mean, you see someone like Jaromir Jagr who's still playing, and he's still, I mean, who's to say he can't? Keep going.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
From that 2022 game season, you brought up one workout earlier, which was the back 9 workout, the second to last workout of the games. And I think that for people watching it, you see Laura and Tia finish this workout in like a minute 15 seconds. And it looks, quite frankly, easy watching them do it. You were basically middle of the pack on this workout. Out of the 30 remaining women, you finished 16th. Take out these women that are just like crushing that. For the rest of the field, what is a workout like this at the end of a competition like that do to the body?
It crushes you. I mean, your central nervous system at that point, there's already so much stress around the weekend, and you're constantly eating to help buffer that stress. And like when they announced that one, I was like, I love a heavy yoke. Like I love a yoke. I love heavy barbells. I failed the squat clean trying to do the front squats. Like it hit so differently at that time. And, you're so deep into the weekend. But I could barely pick up the yoke too. Like that's how heavy it was. It was nuts.
Well, you beat the cap. Not everyone beat the cap, so at least that was good. Do you think if you're going to put a workout like that, it's better towards the back of the weekend though? Early on, it would just cause too much damage.
I mean, I guess it depends, what they're looking for. with how they want to make you feel that weekend, you know? And then the final workout was the version of Jackie where you had to hold a 150 pace, which I was like, I don't think I could do this. Like we were in the back warming up and I'm like, I think I'm going to hit the cap. I don't know what's going to happen.
And there were some people that didn't. Some people didn't.
Yeah, there were. Is like I was so happy. I sat on my rower for a good like minute just trying to recover before I went over to the barbell. Like it's just cool because it's like you have those doubts in your head and then it's like, well, I'm going to go see if I can. Like what do I have to lose? I don't want to just sit here and be done. But it's cool to see like what you are capable of. And they do that for a reason. You know, it's either you're capable of it or you're going to sit on your rower for the rest of the workout.
Yeah. And like Patrick said, it happened to a few, but I actually love that story that, you know, you weren't sure. You talked about when you went to your first CrossFit Games, this terrified feeling, and that now 5 years later, there's still a workout out there that scares you and makes you wonder, like, despite everything that I do, training, eating, sleeping, recovery, can I do this thing? Yeah.
And it's funny because we get into, you know, we got into semifinals training, we get through a new phase and we get into games prep. Like I'm always super intimidated looking at my first week of training, but it's like an excitement and it's like an, oh shit feeling. Like we're about to go into the trenches and we're going to stay there for a couple weeks. So you always come out on the other side better.
So 2022 games finish up. It was your best CrossFit Games as an individual yet. You took 21st that year. Was the same fire there that season as it was the previous year, that I want to do that again? I want to stay on top of my nutrition. I think I can do even better.
100%. There's still more potential there. There's still a higher ceiling to reach for. I knew if I can stay similar with the routines and habits that I can go for it again for sure.
So you do this, you run it back, 2023 open quarterfinals, no real issue. For athletes at your level, you kind of realize these are just stepping stones to get to the semifinal.
Yeah.
And there's always this conversation around semifinals or regionals that especially I feel like the more experience you have with it, the more real it becomes as an athlete, that it doesn't matter anything I've done before. I have to perform this weekend or my season's over.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the weekend that means the most for a majority of us that are trying to qualify, right? There are certain athletes who, you know, are going to qualify. You know, Tia's going to make it. You know, Laura's going to make it. There are a few that are just, you know, they're guaranteed in. But for the rest of us, it's kind of up in the air. And every year, everybody gets better. So I like the depth, like the strength of field. I like that because I'm much more confident in 11 or 12 places than I am in a top 5 in fields like this. So,
and last year at the semifinals, just kind of when I was looking back preparing for this, I feel like maybe it wasn't your best performance. Like you've had some better ones. And as you're managing that weekend, was there ever any kind of doubts, things creeping in? I don't know if I'm good enough anymore. I don't know if I'm going to make it or not.
Last year was very stressful. I hurt my back in like week 3 of training for semifinals. So I went through the entire semifinals prep, figuring out how to work around my back. I had a bulging disc. So we thought at the time, and it had just been so much stress in figuring that out, but also just not quitting on it. Like we were doing everything we could. I was doing everything I could physically, going to PT every week. But like when I first pulled my back, like I couldn't put socks on. I couldn't bend over and put socks on. So when they announced dumbbell Linda was in there, I was like, oh, shit. I'm terrified of a 220-pound deadlift, which my max is nearly 400 pounds. So I had a lot of doubts that I I doubted that I would be healthy enough to compete to begin with, let alone to be able to make it through the whole weekend. But we changed up so much of my training. Like the sled became my best friend when it came to strength work. And we did it like it was just took way more communication and way more work to figure it out. And I was able to stay healthy through the entire weekend. My PT came down for the whole weekend, did a ton of work on my body the entire time. And as long as I warmed up and I recovered well, I was able to stick it out. But I had event 2 with the ruck muscle ups. I really, really took a hit, and I just was failing reps, and I took a solid, I don't know, 30th or something like that. I don't even know what place it was.
29th.
Yeah, so that one really, really hurt. Had that workout gone to plan the way it did in training, I was confident in the whole weekend, despite the back issue. As long as my back held up, I was confident in the rest of my scores.
And that dumbbell Linda workout ended up being, your best one of the weekend anyway.
Yeah, I'd done a lot of dumbbell bench. It's pretty much. So yeah, I look back to 2023 and I'm like, what our bodies are physically capable of is absolutely incredible. And like what you can do when you put your mind to it, you just have to go about it the right way. And like, I was constantly figuring out what that was the entire year. So by the end of the games, I was wrecked like that. So semifinals weekend, qualified, it took me like 2 weeks to recover, just mentally and physically. It just hit me so differently, just all the stress.
Did you know after the final event whether you'd qualified or not?
No, absolutely not. My coach wouldn't look at me. He's like trying to do the numbers in his head. He like miscalculated, and then nobody in the stands knew. So I was looking for Ben. I couldn't even find people's faces in the crowd. I was just so like blurred.
You should just look for Brian.
Oh no. I actually got in trouble for. I've gotten in trouble for this. No one, people do ask me that. Don't ask me that.
Yeah.
I had several people this year asking me,
yeah,
did she make it? Hey, did he make it? I'm like, that's not my job. Leave me alone.
So Drew was actually at home that weekend, and he is doing all the calculations on his computer while the girls are crossing the finish line. And he had me in, but he couldn't communicate that obviously because he's in Maine. So no, standing there
are always things that you don't know about because there could be an appeal, there could be a review, there could be a judging discrepancy, there could be a chip malfunction. So all those things are that's another reason why I'm like, I'm never going to tell you because I don't know. Those people over there that are huddled around the monitor, they're the ones whose job it is to figure it out. And no matter what you think, you don't know what they're talking about. And there's all these variables in play.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't think of that.
Just in case any people are listening to this in the future, is a reminder. So you got in at the last spot, 386 points. The women behind you had 383, 383, 379, 378. So between those 5 women, there was a ton of different scenarios and variables in play. And the finishing positions of those women ranged from 3rd to 18th. So the volatility of the leaderboard around the cut line last year was crazy.
Yep.
And knowing now this context of where you've come through up to this point in your career, what did you feel in that moment when they said your name last year?
A little bit of disbelief, a lot of relief, and like holy shit, we did it. Like we put in so much work for this year to make this happen, like to see it pay off in that way. A lot of tears were cried, a lot of emotions came from that weekend. And to see that it was possible. Yeah, I mean, I still think back to 2023 and I'm like, I learned a lot that year. I learned a lot of just life lessons that year that I know will carry forward with me.
That's actually a really cool thing to say. And you've echoed this sentiment with many parts of your career, like that you're constantly learning. And it's not just about competition. It's about yourself. It's about life. Obviously, or, as you mentioned earlier, you coach at a gym, at an affiliate, in addition to training. And I love hearing that there are things that you learn through competition that you're able to apply and that you can foresee applying to your life well beyond a competition floor.
Yeah. I've actually, this past year, I'll get a little vulnerable here, but I've been seeing a therapist. I go, quite a bit every other week or so. But just the more I talk with her, we kind of just get into the roots of like the way I was raised. And, my mom was raised by a single mom, has 5 other siblings. They just had a poor income, and she had to learn to be resilient at such a young age. And I'm learning how much of that resilience has kind of poured over into me. And ever since we talked about that in one of my sessions, like it just has kind of stuck with me. And so I think I take a lot of that into competition, into training, and just into life in general.
Well, that's really cool. Appreciate you sharing that. We know now that you go on in 2023 season to have even a better performance or overall finish. Maybe sometimes the performance can be subjective. Maybe you have different opinions than other people, and you improved from 21st the previous year to 18th, despite having these kind of back issues that you have to manage, being destroyed after the semifinal that year. The semifinals in the East was week 1. So you were able to take the next 2 weeks, watch other people do it, and still get into what's probably considered a pretty normal games run up. I mean, the people who had the last week, they had even less time than that. By the time you got to the games, were you feeling good, or was it still kind of a question mark?
I was still super hesitant. Like I still stayed away from pulling anything heavy off the floor. Squatting became a lot of tempo work, and the sled was still my friend. So, no, I was still very much giving the feedback with my coach when I felt ready and when I didn't. And for the most part, like the rest of the 2023 year, I didn't feel ready, even through Rogue. But again, our bodies are capable of so much more. And my body has continued to prove that to me.
Last year ends up being the last year of the Madison era, which is up to this point where you've only competed at the CrossFit Games. It was in Madison.
Yeah.
I didn't know that last year was going to be the last year while we were there. Did you know that?
I had no idea. I don't follow along too much, like too closely. So again, the adjustments, when things change, you just adjust on the fly when they change.
Do you have an event from last year's games that stands out to you?
Oh gosh. I don't know. A lot of it was fun.
Do you feel like there's been a transition over the years of having more fun competing at the pinnacle event of your sport?
Yeah, I think so. I think the more you become experienced and you get to know a lot of the girls in the back, it becomes a little less cutthroat of a feeling. Like, you can look at certain people and maybe they're super reserved or just quiet, but at the end of the day, like to me, it doesn't seem as cutthroat as it once was. And maybe that's just my personality too. Like I love to go out there and compete and be serious when competing. But like, if someone's going to come up and talk to me, like I'm going to have a smile on my face and say hello and be respectful. The back.
Patrick, that was the cue to pull up the hockey picture with that great smile.
Stop. I was like a child then.
Yeah, she smiled more back then.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because I think people we were in the warm-up area for Syndicate Crown, and I'm pretty sure me and Gabe, my coach, have like the hardest resting bitch face because no cameras came up and talked to us the entire time. And I'm like, I'm actually not like a mean person.
As soon as they say, "Hey, Paige," you'd be like, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, right. So I just thought it was funny. I'm like, maybe it's us. Maybe it's just our face.
Well, this year's semifinals was totally different than last year. like
Yeah.
we said at the beginning, you come out the gates, you have an 8th, 9th, 6th through 3 workouts and 2 days of competition. You're sitting in a great spot. The workouts, a little bit worse performances on the back half, but never outside of a qualifying spot, never in that position you were all of the previous season with the semis without knowing if you were going to make it or not. And to me, when I was reflecting on the weekend, I kind of thought to myself, that this is what I was expecting from you the previous year. That's what we saw 2 years ago. And you've kind of put yourself in this situation. I mean, this year, if you look at the names ahead of you on the leaderboard, there's a pretty tight gap there. And then there's a big drop after you. So it was whereas you were part of the drop last season. Is this kind of more where you feel like you belong, an athlete that's seasoned, that's experienced at this stage of competition, and that is well-rounded enough to have a pretty smooth run?
Yeah, I think so. Again, you want to call it a rowing workout or a handstand walk workout. I knew it was going to be damage control for me. I've learned what those workouts are for me and where I need to continue to see bigger improvements. But I know in the rest of them that I belong with the field. And,
I know that
cool
people like to take these workouts and pretend that they're just one thing. And I've heard a lot of people call that a rowing workout, but we, thanks to someone in the chat, asked you about your weaknesses. You said getting inverted, and sure enough, by a pretty considerable margin, 12 spots, that was your worst workout of the weekend. And if we look back at all your CrossFit Games appearances, there's that echo press that stands out, so it's not, so you identify that and you see this, and we see this workout, and we could say clearly the handstand walking is relevant in this workout too.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. And rowing is too. Like, rowing is not my strong suit. But again, both of them have improved. It's just that girls can literally run on their hands faster than I can walk to the store. So, I mean, it's just, you had to know how to execute on both. And as everybody has said, like, day 3 at semis was a high execution day. So I knew that was going to be damage control going in.
And then we can say this, like, if it was a rowing workout, Haley Adams wouldn't win the workout.
But she might.
But it's a rowing and a handstand walking workout.
Yeah.
And you have to be, like you said, good at both.
Yeah. And I mean, look at, and you can look at it from the other side too, right? Danielle Brandon expected to come in first on a handstand walk workout, comes in 10th. So.
Is this true? You did an extra section of handstand walking or of walking lunges? Little known fact, Paige is the only athlete to do 84 feet unbroken walking lunges.
So. Ryan.
Wasn't it only 72 feet of lunging? You must
72.
have done. You did a little extra, a little bonus.
Now I'm going to question myself. I don't know.
We have a few questions here.
Oh, yeah, he's right. Walking lunges. So I actually started the set of walking lunges and got no rep twice, had to take a whole walk back and then go through the whole thing unbroken. So, which is crazy because the margin for error in that workout is seconds. So I went from like a 6th place to a 14th place in a matter of 2 no reps, which could have been way worse, but
All right, we got a couple questions here. I like this one, CrossFit. Is there a workout from her career that she'd like to have another shot at?
Yeah, I definitely like redemption on a pig, but I need to, have a pig and practice on it. But yeah, anything probably with the pig.
All right.
The capital too.
You mentioned earlier that there was last year you had the first week of semifinals. This year you had the last one. Earlier, Tariq asked, how was it knowing the workout so early this year? They also got released an extra week early because of some leak. Do you have a preference, regional semifinal, to go early or late?
Not really. This year I liked having a lot of prep for it. Like, we spent 3 days a week with 75-pound dumbbells or heavier. Like, we were very, very prepared for this weekend. And did I get sick of running and clean and jerks and dumbbell walking lunges after an echo bike? Yes, of course. But preparation is key. When you know, you take advantage of that. So I think this year it paid off. But I don't have a preference. As long as I can, if they're going to come out and you get to test them, I'll test them out. But either way. Like, I don't think I have too much of a preference.
Just a comment here. More of a rowing workout. I would agree with that. Not exclusively. Needed to be good at both for sure. Someone who may know here says that we need to give you some flowers.
That's Rashad. He's mind over matter.
Rashad he should be giving you flowers. He should be giving me flowers. I'm the one that connected you two. So
CrossFit again, as an athlete in it for a few quote unquote phases, says Paige, spelled incorrectly. Feel athletes have more or less opportunities to make this as a career now than when you first started out?
I guess it depends on the support you have. So I was in 2016, I was working as a casino games dealer, and I qualified for regionals, and I was like, Mom, I think I want to give this a shot. And so I quit that job because working in a casino is just, if you've been in one, you know. And I've had the support ever since. And along the way, I've learned to support myself as well. So, excuse me. I think it's very, very hard to make it as a career. But if you have the support and you have the drive and you have what it takes, I don't see why you can't.
Just wanted to, because of you're questioning me over there, Paige. So I went back to check on the 1,000-meter row from the 2020 online games. Haley Adams, 6th place. So absolutely is a good rower as well.
Yep, I know she is.
And last question here, leading into this year's games, what do you think of the possibility of having a more indoor games? People are not familiar. There won't be a facility like there was North Park in Madison, which you've had a lot of familiarity with throughout your career. Dave has said basically if you take the workouts that were in North Park and the workouts that were in the Coliseum, those are the workouts you can expect to see in Dickies Arena. And if you think about the workouts that existed outside of those two things, you can expect a similar number of workouts outside of Dickies Arena. So maybe 1 or 2, 3 in a unusual scenario, if there's maybe a back-to-back or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm excited. I think, the whole Misfit crew is coming down. We're going to see what it's all about and take what we get. I think we'll see a little bit more classic CrossFit, just kind of tailored up a notch. And I think that's good for me. I like some of the higher skill stuff. I'll continue to be working on my handstand walking and those skills. And I think either way, it's going to be a great spectacle for the fan and for the spectator. But I'm just excited to go compete.
In the last 2 years since that Echo Press workout came out with a inverted wall facing to a floating target deficit, is that something that you practice in your training? We haven't seen it.
Not with the floating. No, absolutely not. I think that was a miss on their part. Like, I don't know, I can make my bun nice and messy and add 2 inches. And no, we like, as much as it's unknown and unknowable, I think Misfit does a really great job in predicting as best as you can with the programming. And I just, I'm going to trust the training that they put forward, and I'm going to put my head down and get to work.
Well, we'll close out with this comment from Ryan, since you already outed his name, which we're not supposed to do apparently.
No.
He's got a client, he's got to go, but Paige is legitimately the coolest dude out there. She's fit too, but she's even more rad to have pizza and a drink with. And it was certainly awesome to have you on the show today. That was an hour and 45 minutes walking through your career. Obviously, a lot of things that you've learned doing this sport. It's cool for us, I think, for others to hear how some of that applies to relationships, how you're continuing to try to find ways to improve yourself as a person and are still improving as an athlete, relative to an increasingly more difficult field in this sport. So hopefully that was rewarding for you and fun for people to be able to get to know you better.
Yeah, this is awesome.
How early will you get to Madison this year?
Madison, you mean Fort Worth?
Texas.
Fort Worth, yes.
So we actually have to be in for Monday. So I'll probably Monday or Tuesday. But I'll probably get there Sunday or Monday. I'll take the whole week. So how about you guys?
Patrick sadly will not be making it to the games this year. He has Army deployment into Europe. I think he's leaving about 10 days prior to the games starting.
How long are you gone? How long are you deployed?
9 months, roughly.
Okay. Well, best of luck.
It'll be fun. I'll be in Germany the whole time. Well, I'll
Nice.
be all around Europe. So
I have a remote athlete out in Germany. His name is Trey.
okay.
Maybe you'll find him.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to say names on here.
You can say whatever you want.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm always, as soon as you say that, I'm immediately thinking if I know who it is or not.
Probably not.
Yeah. You never know. I spend some time in Europe watching CrossFit. Just depends if he's competitive or not.
When's Joanne coming out there too?
She's coming. She'll be out there, I believe, on Wednesday.
Yeah, and
she'll have a beer for you.
Yeah. I mean, she was. I just obviously adore your mom. She's one of my favorite people, and seeing her all those 3 days at Syndicate is just awesome. You know, her sitting in front row and just she always said hi to me, and it's like it's cool. You know, and you know. It's really cool to see that support. I think you brought it up, like how Wilson's very like caring about, you know, putting friends and family back there. So that way, you know, and he does a good job with that. So,
yeah.
Well, Joanne, thank you for your service and raising such a beautiful, amazing, you know, woman here in Paige.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Paige. Good luck with the games this year. And I'll be down similar time to you. I'm thinking Monday I'll probably get down there. So we'll catch up with you in Texas.
Make sure you stop by, have a beer with Joanne. She'll be waiting.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks, Paige, for taking the time. Thank you to HGR for sponsoring the show. We will be back tomorrow. We have a show tomorrow. Oh yeah, we do have a show tomorrow.
Yeah,
Henrik Happalainen, change of plans. Victor Hoffer had to reschedule the next week, so we got Happalainen tomorrow, and we will see you guys then. And until then, be friendly, our friends.